Hey folks, in this video we're going to introduce functions. You've been using these all along, and now we're going to formally tell you what they are. All right, the first function that you learned was the rectangle function. And inside the rect function, if you look down here, it tells you the function rect expects parameters like rect, float, 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 float. Okay, so that tells me I need to put in 4 numbers. Let's see, so I happen to remember that this is the X location, the Y location, the width and the height of the rectangle. X, Y, width and height. Oh, and then we're drawing the background on top of it. Whoops. One more try. There we go. Cool. So there's our rectangle. We just did what's called a function call. All right, we called the rectangle function. Now, while you weren't looking, I made my own little function that I'm very proud of, and it is called add 2 nums. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this function, and I've written it in, and down here this is really nice. Add 2 nums expects parameters like float, float. Great. Okay, so I'll do 50 and 30. Cool. And then I run it. Ooh, nothing happens. Big disappointment. Now, add 2 nums. What it's doing is it's actually adding up the 2 numbers, and it's telling me the sum. It's saying 80. So it's like somewhere magically the number 80 exists. Well, let's see what happens if I add a print line statement here. Okay, now I'm getting my 80.0. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to show you my function that I wrote, which I'm super proud of. And let's see what's happening here. My function is called, or it's named, add 2 nums. It expects 2 parameters, and they should both be floats. And then I'm skipping this first word float here, right? So I'm going to the name of the function, the parameters or the arguments that it expects. And then inside I say, I declare a new variable, the sum. And then I say, okay, let's set the sum equal to, the actual sum of these things. And then I say return the sum. And return, what does that mean? That means that when I call this function, when I use it up here, this is returning a value. It's saying, okay, here's the number 80. And now we're back up to this first word up here, float. This is the return type. Okay, so this function, it is going to return to the main program a float. It's named add two nums. It expects 2 floating point numbers here. And then here's the return. And then inside is just all the stuff we do for our program. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and say float what? And I'll write this out so you can see it. It gave back. All right, so this function is going to return or give back the number 80. And then I can hit it gave back. And why am I doing this in kind of a redundant way? And there's much quicker ways you could do this. I just want you to see for a couple of ways, in a couple of different ways, that this is, I'm print lining this variable here. And so you can see that this is returning the number 80, storing it in this float, and then here we are printing it. Let's see, we could also use this to draw our rectangles. We could say, let's put it at 250, 300, and then let's give it a width of what it gave back, and a height of what it gave back. And now when I run this, okay, here's my other rectangle a little off the screen. Make it show back up. All right, and there is my rectangle using the numbers, what it gave back and what it gave back. So it's 80 by 80. All right, so a lot of exciting suspense in that segment there. Your assignment is going to be to finish out building a 4-function calculator, and I'm gonna walk through the skeleton of a couple of these with you because it's a little confusing the first couple times you do this. You're gonna have to make a lot of functions to get used to doing it. So our next one will be the difference or subtraction. I'll go ahead and make it a float again. And let's see, subtract 2 nums. And just like before, it's going to expect 2 floats. I'll say num1 and num2. Make sure I close it off. And I'll say, whoops. Let's see, takes 2 numbers and returns the difference. Okay, so you're going to have to do stuff very similar to this, except now find the difference. Oh, and I forgot one thing that you always want to do with your functions. Takes 2 numbers and returns the sum. Cool. And now if I ever want to reuse this function, I know exactly what it does, right? I can look at the name, I can look at this little comment, and I can just copy and paste that into my other programs. And let's see. I'm going to write out the multiply for you, and then I'm going to just say you have to also do divide, and I'm not going to write anything out for you. Mult 2 nums. Okay, and then you'll have to put your comment in, what the comment does. And then down here, make a function that will divide 2 numbers. Okay, so on this final one, I'm not writing anything out for you to get you started. All right, so you're going to have to copy along with these kind of things and get used to doing this, and you're going to write a lot of functions. And then we'll actually get to use them in much more interesting ways than just the 4-function calculator, which already exists. Okay, but you're going to be much more confident doing this and writing your own more powerful code. All right, good luck with your first assignment.